Boom. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Got some more fragrance content on the menu ready to go for this week's video. I saw the comments last week. I know how long it's been since we've posted consistent and regular fragrance content. And I got something special for y'all this week. I hope you're excited. I am to get to review these fragrances and talk about them. Because this week we're looking at the top 5 most underrated fragrances in my collection. Now, as is with most top 5 lists, number 5 isn't necessarily inferior to number 1 on our list this afternoon. But I just wanted to highlight 5 fragrances that myself, Canyon, anybody else never really talk about. And I still think they hold some good value and some really underrated quality in my collection in general. So we're going to jump into that. But first, just a couple things housekeeping-wise, just to make mention. I've been considering doing maybe a top 5 most overrated fragrances in my collection. And I've also been wanting to do some buying guides like Prada Luna Rosso, YSLY, maybe the Sauvage line, the JPG, Le Male line, different things like that. So if you want to see those, comment down below and what fragrance house you want me to feature, and I'll try to complete the collection for that. And also, next Monday, I believe the 21st of October, is the 4-year anniversary of my YouTube channel, and we're going to be doing a special Q&A episode for that. So drop down in the comments any questions or anything you want me to make mention of or talk about during this celebration, because it's going to be an exciting time. 4 years of making YouTube content coming up this Monday. We'll have a video going up that evening. So comment down below if you want to see fragrance content and the questions for Monday's vlog. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. First and foremost, which one I want? You know what? Let's start out with the cheapest. We'll push these other 4 out of the way. We're talking about most underrated, right? Okay. Bath & Body Works. Don't click off the video. I know. I cannot believe, as a fragrance content creator, I'm about to say this and feature a Bath & Body Works fragrance in my video, an eau de cologne concentration, something it's probably about $40. But this fragrance, I picked it up a couple years ago, around the fall time. And you can ask Canyon, you can ask anybody else that is featured in these videos that has smelled this fragrance. This is truly one of the most underrated scents in my collection. It's been launched in 2022, so it's still recent, still fresh. The top notes are smoke, yes, smoke, and bitter orange. Bourbon vanilla is in the mid, and the base note is cedar. This fragrance truly is smoked, old-fashioned. It truly smells like the name. And I think it's drawing a lot of comparisons to the latest Tom Ford Ombre Leather release that just came out about a month ago. So the newest scent out of that Ombre Leather line from Tom Ford really resembles this. But this is about a tenth of the price, and so that's why I'm kind of leaning this one over Mr. Tom Ford. But this fragrance, like I've said, it's very solid, very good. And I know what you're thinking. Eau de cologne, $40, doesn't really sound like the recipe for a long-lasting fragrance, but especially in this time of year, you're going to get about 6 to 8, 8.5, 9 hours out of this fragrance. Whenever I smell this, I think of the first time I wore it in Destin, Florida. Going to go out to eat for a nice dinner in the fall a couple years ago. So this fragrance has great memories. It is very good. It's honestly, I think a young man could wear it. I think an older gentleman could wear it. It is classy. It is smoky. It is woodsy. And it is an underrated fragrance, thus landing it at number 5. I'm a big fan of smoked old-fashioned, if you can't tell already. So that slots in at the number 5 slot today. The next one I want to talk about is kind of a classic, but is now starting to get overlooked in the Mont Blanc line. Mont Blanc Legend. This fragrance came out in 2011. It's one of the highest reviewed and regarded fragrances from this time, the early 2010s. But obviously, as time has gone on, this fragrance has kind of lost its presence in discounters and in stores like Dillard's and Macy's in modern 2024 today. But this fragrance is really solid and really unique, and most of you probably didn't even know I owned it. And honestly, sometimes I forget that I own it. But here recently, I've gotten back into it, and I've started to appreciate its quality. You'll get some lavender, pineapple, bergamot, and lemon off the top. Very fresh, very clean, very appealing. But as it dries down, that's where this fragrance kind of takes its character. You get some red apple, dried fruits, oak moss, geranium, rose, and then in the base, tonka bean and sandalwood. This fragrance is, I would describe it as a 4-season fragrance, but I think it performs best this time of year. You're going to get pretty decent projection out of it. And it's overall, for the wearability, for the projection, and for the price point, you could, depending on where you'd pick this up, you could probably find this between $60 and $90 probably conservatively, depending on the size bottle you get. So you factor all those things together, and that is the recipe for an underrated fragrance. I mean, even today, now you have people talking about Mont Blanc Legend Spirit. Obviously, Mont Blanc Legend Blue dropped in this past summer and is a great summertime scent. Obviously Mont Blanc Explorer Platinum. They have so many different fragrances in the collection, but I think Mont Blanc Legend, just the OG, I think it's sometimes, similarly with Smoked Old Fashioned and some others on this list, it's kind of been forgotten about and lost as time has went on. But don't underestimate this one, especially if you're just getting into fragrances. This is a great starter one. Can last you several seasons throughout the year. I'd be kind of gentle with this in the summertime, no doubt. But great fragrance, and that's why it's number 4 on this list. Oh, I'm trying to think. Let's go to number 3. I want to save, in my opinion, maybe my favorite 2 for last, and with the 2 best stories to go along with it. One that most of you that are into fragrances probably are familiar with, Gucci Guilty Pour Homme. This fragrance, kind of like Mont Blanc Legend, came out in 2011. Top notes of lavender, lemon. The middle is African orange flower, and in the base, Virginia cedar, patchouli, and vanilla. I remember, I have several memories of this fragrance. This is my own bottle, but I know several people in my family that wear this fragrance and wear it out to dinners, wear it out to date nights. They wear it as their everyday scent. This is truly a do-it-all cologne, but it really does shine, I think, when it's cooler, when it's in the evening time. This, to me, it's masculine, it's sophisticated, it's mature. I would say it's certainly more suited towards an individual, maybe in their 20s or 30s or even 40s. It's not too sweet, but it's very masculine, very warming and inviting with that cedar and patchouli as it settles down on your skin. And honestly, I know Gucci Guilty, and especially just Gucci as a fragrance line, they've kind of lost some of their lore, some of their popularity here recently. I know they have great fragrances, the Elixir Solid, Gucci Black, things of that matter, the Eau de Parfum. There's a whole bunch in the line you could probably talk about and highlight. But this one specifically, the OG, I think is still the best in the collection. You're going to get solid performance. And I think it's one that every man needs to check out and it needs to at least be familiar with, because it is number 3 on our most underrated fragrance list. Okay, I'm getting too excited about number 1, but we got to keep it for the very last one. Number 2, though, Burberry Hero. Once again, kind of with Gucci Guilty, most of you that are into fragrances are probably familiar with this one. This only came out 3 years ago, and I know they've now put out the Parfum and the Eau de Parfum as well, but this is kind of the original release from this line. But I just think it is so underrated. As somebody that loves the smell of cedar, that loves the smell of woods, I think this fragrance is everything you could want if those kind of scents and notes are something you crave and enjoy. This fragrance starts off with bergamot. It's fresh. It's clean. Got some citruses. It then goes to juniper and black pepper, which those kind of middle notes are very familiar in the YSL and Prada fragrances. But then it gets down to the base, and this is where I think Burberry Hero gets its claim to fame with its Atlas cedar, Virginian cedar, and Himalayan cedar. I think this fragrance is potentially, out of every single one on this list, I think it's the most masculine. I think it's potentially the most versatile. You can wear this. This is great for spring, great for fall, great for winter. I think you could even pull it off depending on the sprays in the summertime. But this is just a cedar and a woods bomb. Like, if you or you know somebody that isn't really into the iris fragrances of the world and doesn't really like the gourmands or things that are super sweet and things like that, this is, I think, a perfect fragrance that doesn't overstep it, doesn't try to do too much. It's not too sweet. It's definitely not leaning on the unisex side. It is certainly a masculine fragrance intended for men. And I'm going to be honest, you kind of think of fragrances like Oud for Greatness that Inicio's put out that tries to do this kind of encapsulation of a bunch of woods coming together. This is a great fragrance, especially compared to Oud for Greatness for its price point. Now, it doesn't last all day. I have to knock it slightly on that. You're not getting the greatest projection of longevity with this, I have to be honest. But I think it's definitely very underrated. Obviously, it's got to be, in my opinion, it's about halfway emptied out now. And most people just aren't really giving Burberry, I think, the love that they show. They are still putting out good fragrance stuff, and they've put out stuff here recently, the last couple of years. This is only 3 years old at the time of my recording. But Burberry Hero, go check it out. It is number 2 on our most underrated fragrance in my collection list. But number 1, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't think this fragrance would ever make an appearance in a YouTube video. Jimmy Choo Man. Now, most of you might be familiar with Jimmy Choo. They have Jimmy Choo Man, Jimmy Choo Ice, Jimmy Choo Blue. They have a whole bunch in the Jimmy Choo Man line. But this one, once again, is you're kind of noticing a theme here. It's one of the first ones in the collection, came out 10 years ago. And this fragrance is super unique. Now, obviously, this is, I believe this is a 100, yes, this is a 100 ml bottle. I have a 50 ml upstairs that's basically empty, so I had to go to my backup. So I got this in a gift set. But this fragrance is super underrated. I'm going to read you the notes and then kind of give you the backstory to why this scent is number 1 and why it's in this list. This fragrance has a lot, super sweet, super fruity. It's got some musk, some lavender. It's pretty much year-round. You can kind of do anything you want to with this scent. It's got aromatic notes, fruity notes, woods, honeydew melon, I think at the top is what it says, pink pepper, pineapple leaf, lavender, patchouli, and suede. So it's this super fresh, super citrusy, almost sweet kind of fragrance that dries down to something more like with the suede and patchouli, more warm, more inviting, more intense, potentially has some more depth to it as it dries down on your skin. But this fragrance for me, and I'll spray it off a little bit in the air just to refresh my senses. Yeah, okay. This fragrance was the first one that I got into and that I wore consistently as a teenager. Like, if you caught me in high school, whether it's going to school every day or especially date night fragrances, this was the scent that I wore. And I'm going to be honest with you, I just have to be totally transparent. This fragrance, whenever I smell it and think of it, some of my more favorable memories come to mind, but some of my more forgettable memories and things I'd like to never reminisce on again, those also come to mind as well. So certainly mixed reviews, but this fragrance, I think for it being the first one that I consistently wore kind of as my signature scent in high school, for that reason and that reason only, and I've got to make my list of my personal most underrated fragrances. But even besides the stories and even besides the background information I just gave you, this fragrance is just simply underrated because of its price point. It's not very expensive, about $50, $60. It's going to last you a long time. That's why I personally wore it, because I got some good compliments and positive feedback from this scent. And I could literally wear it all 4 seasons, school, date night, work, whatever I was doing, going to a football game, going to a sporting event, racing, like you name it, you can do it while wearing this fragrance and nobody's going to get mad. Nobody's going to be offended. Super underrated and a super good fragrance with some great memories and some terrible memories all mixed in between. And that's the beauty of Jimmy Choo Man, which is why it lands at number 1 on my top 5 most underrated fragrances in my collection list. So that is all. I'm going to pull all these bad boys out one final time to give the outro. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 2.5K with those shorts. Comment down below. Do you want to see the most overrated fragrances in my collection? Do you want me to start doing some more buying guides? If so, what lines would you like me to start out with? And what questions and what topics do you want me to address in this coming up week's video on Monday for the 4th anniversary and birthday of my YouTube channel? So be sure to do all those things. Thank you all for your support. See you on Sunday for the devotional, and God bless.